ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Who's first time here? Anyone? Right at the back. How many of you chant some japa, some form of chanting, your own personal daily? Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to understand the audience, just looking at you all. Yes, I was a teacher. I'm not a teacher anymore. I'm a police officer now. Detective. I changed professions just recently. So I have been coming to the manor since I was a kid. We all knew about this place, and my parents would take me once in a blue moon, once in a blue moon, meaning not regularly. Then when I was 16, I came here for Janmashtami because I just finished my GCSEs and I was coming here to pray to get good results. You know what we do when we're students. So then I saw the whole festival, Janmashtami festival. At that time, it used to be in that end. It wasn't here. It was over there. And I thought to myself, oh, I want to be here. I want to help out. I love this place. There's something special about this place. I want to help next year. So in 1993, now you know how old I am, I came as a 17-year-old to Bhaktivedanta Manor and I stayed over 3 days and I did service and I loved it. I was so happy. I was just so over the moon just to be here amongst nice, friendly people. That practiced the faith that I wish to follow. Then I joined this youth group called Pandava Sena. It's still present. It's 30 years old to this year. 2024 is 30th anniversary. And then I can see a lot of youngsters here, so I'm going to talk to you. When you are in a youth group amongst your own friends and peers, it's easier to follow bhakti. It's not easy to follow when you just go with your parents. Whatever your parents say, you don't care, you don't want to know. But then when you go with your friends, they inspire you. So then I was with this youth group. I was 18, and I was like going through a very good time in my Krishna consciousness. And I grew up in East London. Anyone from East London? Which part? Forest Gate, yeah. That's like second home to me. I'm from Leytonstone, right? So I'm a Cockney guy. I live in East London. I've changed my accent since I got married to someone from Pinner. I had to change the accent, learn how to pronounce the T's. So then I was 18, and then I ran the youth group with a group of friends in East London in Forest Gate. It was called the Upton Centre near Green Street. And we were doing our youth group. You know, we'll get people together, youngsters, and we'll chant Hare Krishna, we'll give out food, we'll do an arti, and we'll speak a bit of philosophy to youngsters. Never been done before. You know, it's unheard of in the 90s. So we would do that. And then one day, I was calling up this boy. I was trying to get people to join us. So what happens is that at Bhaktivedanta Manor, you have a festival, and you sign up people. Would you like to join this youth organization? Because, you know, you're young and you would like to follow Krishna consciousness and we can teach you. So this boy wrote down a name, and then I called him up one day. I was 19 at that time. And then he said to me, oh, I can't attend. I'm not well. And I said, what's wrong? And he wouldn't explain to me what's happening. He just said, no, I'm not well. I can't come. But I just knew that he was a member of Pandava Center. A few months later, his mom calls me up. He goes, I need your help. I said, what's wrong? She goes, my son, he's a member of Pandava Center, but he's dying. He's got leukemia. He's 19. He's about to die. We need you to come and chant or read to him or just be with him. So I went to his house. It was in near Gans Hill, round about that area, in Ilford. Redbridge. And he was 19, I was 20. His name was Babu. And yeah, he was on his deathbed. He was just lying there. He was weak, couldn't really speak properly. But he was the same guy that I called a few months earlier to say, please join us. But he never told me he was that ill. He never told me he had leukemia. So I was shocked. So then I got a group of friends together and we chanted Hare Krishna for him. And then one of the senior devotees read out a story, and that's the story I'm going to tell you today. So there was once a person in ancient India, many yugas ago, who was a Brahminical person. Now, Brahmin means a priestly person. They only study the Vedas and they do puja and they teach yajan, patan, dan pratigraha. That means they worship, they teach you how to worship. They give in charity, they accept charity, and dan pratigraha, they give in charity and give in charity, and give knowledge, and they give knowledge. So you get the point, a priestly person. So he was very pious, and he did everything by the book, very pure. Yeah? So one day he saw a man and woman together in the forest, hugging each other, and the woman glanced at him. And he felt immediately attracted to this woman. By the way, he was married. He was married. He had a family and everything. And he was immediately attracted to the gaze of this woman. And then he gave up his practices. Just gave it up. He was mesmerized. We get things like that in life, isn't it? Some things distract us, and then your mind is constantly thinking about that rather than doing what you should be doing. So he was constantly meditating on this person that he saw in the forest with this man. And then eventually, he invited this woman to be his maidservant in the house. We're talking about ancient India, right? So this woman came into the house and became a maidservant. And in India, you see that. People come in. In England, we call them butlers, and people that come in and serve the family. So it was like that. Eventually, he got rid of his wife. He got rid of his wife, and the wife left with the children. They had an argument, and then he got rid of it. And basically, the maidservant was left in the house. Naturally, he fell in love with the maidservant, and the maidservant became the new missus in the house. Okay, the maidservant became. But through the association, he started to go into crime. Yeah, in order to feed the family, he started to go into crime, and he did all sorts of things. We're talking about murder, talking about robbery, burglary, theft, all these felonies. Okay, so he did all of that, and then he's coming to the age of 88. Long life, yes. He's got many children, but he's got one child that is the youngest child who he loves the most. Anyone got young children? I've got three. Where's my daughter? She's somewhere here. Where is she? There, I'm waving at way in the green dress. And my son's somewhere down there too, with his headphones. He's 13, you know what I mean. So, his young son was called Narayan. Little boy. And when you see little boy or little girl and they can't really speak, but it's so sweet to hear them trying to speak, isn't it? Broken Hindi or English or Gujarati, whatever you call it. But they speak it and it's so, you fall in love with the person, right? So he was like in love with this child. So now he's 88, he's lying down on his deathbed. He's about to leave the world. He's sick. His breathing starts to become more shallow. And then he sees the Yamadutas. Now, Yamadutas, for you who don't know, are personalities that come at the time of death. They come at the time of death. According to our scriptures, they come at the time of death. I'm just going to go. I'm going to go into another story, and I'll come back to this one. I have a friend who, during COVID, went into a coma. Okay, he was like 46 years old, worked for General. I was there at the time. He was in the ICU unit, and at that time, they put you into a deep sleep coma, right? And then then he had to go into it's called ECMO machine, where they put wires into you or pumps and pump out your blood for your kidneys and all that. They just pump. And he was like, let's say when COVID started in 2020, he was like the sixth person to get it in the country, right? Nobody knew what COVID was. They didn't understand it in that time, February time, especially the British government. So they put him on an ECMO machine. I think they took him to one of the London hospitals, and he was in coma for 3 months. Right? And then he would wake up and go to sleep. You wake up and you go to sleep and all that. One day he woke up and he saw these Yamadutas that I'm talking about today. One day he saw that because he was lying down on the bed and there was another bed with another patient and he saw these Yamadutas go after the next person. Now these persons, when I asked him what did they look like, if you ever see Prabhupada's books, there's pictures of the Yamadutas. They're quite hideous. You would be absolutely shocked if you saw them. They're very scary looking and they have pets, like big, massive, I wouldn't say dogs, but they look like that. So he saw that and he was frightened. Now he's a devotee of Krishna, but he was frightened and he could see that this person lying down on the bed was screaming for help, just screaming, help me, and looking at my friend, asking for help. Now what the Yamadutas have, they have this type of noose, it's like a rope, a noose, and it's not like you can take the physical body. There's a subtle body within us. So they can grab that subtle body and pull it out of the body. That's what they have. It's very subtle. So they were doing that at the time when that person was saying, help, help. So the Yamadutas, they look at my friend and said to him, don't interfere. This is his time to go. And my friend was so afraid, he just closed his eyes and he could hear the screaming and then the guy died, basically. He left his body and died. So I've never seen Yamadutas, but I know this friend is a trustworthy friend. He wouldn't be lying because, come to think of it, they spent 1.2 million pounds to save his life, the NHS. He's like a miracle in the NHS. Doctors are baffled how my friend survived COVID under ECMO. They're baffled to this day. He should write a book about it. So the Yamadutas are coming after Ajamila, and Ajamila is screaming. He's frightened. He can't understand who these creatures that are coming to take his soul away from the body. So he calls out the most affectionate thing you have. Like when you're dying, you will think about the most affectionate person, the person you love the most, guaranteed. It will happen in your mind. You'll think about that person. Everything that's come in your life will flash. Yeah. When I thought I was dying once, I'll tell you another story later. Please remind me, someone. So he was frightened. So he called out, Narayan, Narayan. He was calling out for his son. Yeah, he was calling out for his son. So while he was doing that, he was thinking of his son. Then eventually he thought about Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is also, his form is Narayan, like Ram, Nishinga, Vamana, like that. So he was thinking of the Supreme Lord at that time. Then the Vishnu Dutas, the four-armed forms that are in Vaikuntha, they're bluish color, they have crowns, they're beautiful personalities. They're not Narayan, but they're the Vishnu Dutas. They're like you and me, the spirit souls. They appeared, four of them appeared at that point and told the Yamadutas, stop what you're doing. You can't take this soul to be judged. And the Yamadutas are saying, what are you talking about? This person is a very sinful person. All his life has done so many different crimes, and now he needs to be judged by Yamaraj. He needs to be judged. We need to take his soul to Yamaloka, and then Yamaraj will judge him. And then, depending on what he's done, he will go to a certain planet and experience punishment. And the Vishnu Dutta says, you cannot touch him. And they said, why? Because he chanted the holy name of Narayan. Do you see why we're chanting all this mantras? You see, every time these kids are coming and they're lovely chanting and everyone was chanting. There's a reason for that. So then the Yamadutas go, who are you? They didn't understand. They've never seen these celestial personalities, these young Vishnu Dutas. And they said they're from Vaikuntha, they're here, they've come to save this person, and you can't touch him. And they also had weapons too. They had spiritual weapons. Just like Narayan has, a gada, he has, a sword, like that. They had that too. So then the Yamadutas backed off, basically. They said, okay, we can't win this fight. And they left, right? So the Vishnu Dutas saved Ajamila, but they didn't take him back to the spiritual world. They didn't do that. They just told him, now you have been protected. When you chanted Narayan, every sinful thing you did has been vanquished, exonerated. Every offense you made has been cleaned. You're clean, wiped clean. And now you need to go away from this family and focus on your bhajan, your chanting. Yeah? Focus on that and prepare for death. So he did that. He left his family, went to Haridwar, a religious sacred place in India, and just sat at the banks of the Ganga and chanted and prepared for death. And eventually he went back to the spiritual world. Right? So then the Yamadutas, they went to Yamaraj and said, we were trying to get this soul. He committed these apparent sins. We have every right to take his soul to you for judgment. But who are these people that turned up and stopped it? And then Yamaraj said to the Yamadutas, these people are from Vaikuntha and they are here to protect any devotee. And if you see anyone with these tulsi beads, don't touch them. You see these tulsi neck beads? If you see anyone with these tulsi beads, you have no permission to touch them. They're protected by the Supreme Personality of God. That's why we wear tulsi beads. That's why it's so important to wear this. Not only is it protection at the time of death, it purifies our body because tulsi is a sacred plant. It's called holy basil in English. And she's a pure devotee of Krishna. She's one of the great devotees. So that's why we all wear this, yeah? To protect us. So that's in the scriptures, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So why do we chant the holy name? So approximately 500 years ago, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came on this planet in Bengal. Now most Hindus, they don't know that. When I joined, I didn't know that. Yeah, most Indians, they don't know that. They've heard of Ram. They've heard of Lakshmi Narayan, heard of Vishnu, they've heard of Krishna, they've heard of so many personalities. Nishingadev, Vamanadev, Matsya Avatar, Kurma Avatar. Everyone you've heard of. You've never heard of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How many of you have heard of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Okay. So he appeared approximately 500 years ago with his brother, Nityananda. And you have winter, summer, spring, autumn seasons. And it's cyclical and it comes around. And now we're going through summer. June, July, August is summer. Yeah. September, October, November is autumn. December, January, February is winter, especially in this country. You know what I'm talking about. January, February is the worst time to be here. March, April, May is spring. So it keeps going. It doesn't stop. Yeah, it's cyclical. So this universe has a cyclical age. And right now, we are in the Kali Yuga, which is called the Iron Age. There's 4 ages: Satya Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, Kali Yuga. 4 ages, right? And there's 4 different ways to attain liberation, salvation, mukti, to get out of the material world. So in Satya Yuga, it was meditation. Hence, we have Yoga Sutras. Everybody knows about yoga. The purpose of yoga is to help you meditate, to do dhyana, then eventually samadhi. Then from Satya Yuga, let's say Treta Yuga is yajna. So you have to do fire sacrifices. You have a pit and you're doing fire sacrifices and you're invocating Lord Vishnu. Idam Krishnayam, Idam Namama. Then Dwapara Yuga is elaborate deity worship. This is how elaborate deity worship is. That they used to have gold plates. You know, like we have plastic, and you throw away the plastic. In that age, it was gold, and they will throw away the gold. They will offer things with gold, and then they throw the gold away at major elaborate temples, major places. But in Kali Yuga, it's very hard to do long-term meditation. It's very hard to do yajnas. You need to have extreme purification. Very hard to do elaborate deity worship. I'm talking about very elaborate deity worship. So in this age, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave a very simple formula. Chant the holy names of the Lord. That's it. That is the best way to purify one's heart and eventually leave this samsara of birth and death and go back to where we belong, the spiritual kingdom. But people don't know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's an incarnation of Krishna. So Krishna comes, he comes as Kalki Avatar, comes as Buddha. So in this age, he comes as Channa. Channa means hidden. Channa Avatar, and that is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And his brother, Lord Nityananda, is Balram. I'm going to stop here because I've said enough. I'm going to ask anyone who has any questions. But I've been practicing Krishna consciousness for many, many years. And personally speaking, it saved me. Just chanting Hare Krishna has saved me from death. It saved me in so many different situations, especially working in the police, I can tell you that. It's definitely protected me and given me hope and purification. So I'll stop there. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. You have a question?
What about the karmic law? So they say what you sow. So it's like, say I did something bad, and I just went out where I was. I was just saying, what about the karmic law? What you sow, you shall reap. So if I just start doing bad things now, and then on my deathbed, I'll just start chanting your name, and I'll be a clean slate. But what about your bap that you have to pay for, or even the next life? What about that? How can someone just clean their slate by chanting your name?
Yeah, so with Ajamila, that is like a one-off thing that cannot be, because that's a good question, because some people go, you know what, if that was in the Bhagavatam and Ajamila, he committed crazy things all his life, and then at the time of death, he just said something spiritual like Narayan, and now he's saved, why can't I do that? First of all, that's a one-off situation, not to be repeated. Because it's more like you're predicting that, okay, I'm going to do things, and at the time of death, I'm going to predict that I'm going to think of Narayan. He actually never wanted to think of Narayan. He wanted to think of his son, but by thinking of his son, he actually got to think of Narayan. But yes, we have called Pap and Punya, and we are responsible for our actions. Just like when I deal with criminals, they are responsible for what they've done in the past. Yeah, when they come into custody and we have to deal with them, they have to own up to what they've done. And then they get processed by the judicial system, the CPS and everything like that. So we have the same system universally. So don't think that you can do something and nobody's seeing it. Just because nobody witnessed it doesn't mean that it's not recorded. It's recorded because the super soul, Krishna, is within the heart. That's Paramatma. He sees it. The sun sees it, the moon sees it, the air sees it, Bhumi Devi sees it. There's many witnesses to whatever actions we perform, good or bad. But when you become Krishna conscious, it becomes minimized. The reaction will become minimized. It can become minimized. Sorry, I wasn't looking at you. I was looking at one, but you asked me, so I'm going to look at you. So that's the special prerogative of chanting the holy name. That if you sincerely chant it and you sincerely wish to repent for anything you've done in the past, the mercy of Krishna is there to purify you. It may not be that you go back to God straight away. It may mean that you have to take another life and go through reactions and learn your lessons and purify yourself. It may mean a journey, but it means eventually you will leave. Does that answer some of it? We are responsible for our actions, but it can be minimized when we wish to change it. But karma, look, I don't like talking about karma because it's a deep topic and there's so many nuances to karma. Yeah, there's so many nuances. And then the worst thing is when you see good things happen to bad people and you're thinking, what the hell is happening here? But believe me, they will get a reaction. Things do change. We don't see it in this lifetime, but it does happen. It does happen. We may not see it in this lifetime, but it does happen. Anything else? That was a good question. Thank you.
You said you'd tell us a story and that would remind you to say it.
Oh my God. Yeah, can you? I know what you're saying, but I can't remember that. Give me a hint of that story.
I forgot. I remember saying that you were going to tell us a story.
You know, it's not easy sitting up here talking to all of you intelligent people, but it's just there was a story. Can somebody remember what I had to say? That just
near-death experience that you had.
no, it was something else. It wasn't that one. Death experience.
What happened to your friend? Was a best friend in this London?
Okay, I'll just finish off that part. Yes. Okay, so I told him the story of the Ajamila. I didn't say it, my friend told him the story. And he was weeping. This Babu, his name is Babu, he was 19. He was weeping, crying, hearing that story. And then if you go to the Bhagavatam and you read at the end of that chapter, he said, anyone who hears this story will go back to the spiritual world. Basically, just by hearing that story. And that's what happened. He was dying. We were all around him chanting Hare Krishna. And then eventually, we were told to leave. The nurses told us to leave. No, we were shocked because he was agony and he was screaming and his mum was there. So then we left, but only one person remained behind. He was a priest and he was continuing to chant. And in 10 minutes later after we left, he left the world, left his body. So it was a very sad story, how he left. Meaning, young, you know, when you're young, 19, your whole world is in front of you, and then you've got leukemia. And his mom, she had a very sad life. Her husband was a barrister. They're from Bengal, Calcutta. And he was a prominent barrister in England, one of the Inns of Court. And he walked into the house one day and he fainted and he died. He was young. The boy was like a little baby boy. So she had to just take care of her son, and then he dies. Then she has a mum, she dies. She lived alone for most of her life. We tried to keep in touch. And then what I did, I tell you what I did for her, which changed her life. I have a spiritual master. His name is His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami. He's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada passed away in 1977. So his foremost disciples took on the legacy of preaching Krishna consciousness, giving Diksha, Harinam like that. So I introduced her to him. I introduced her to him, and then her whole life changed. She became a devotee. She started to chant Hare Krishna. She got initiated, and her whole life just blossomed. So that's the good deed I did for her. Any other questions? Yeah.
How is the chanting of Hare Krishna different from, say, Wiccan? In India, a lot of people in the south would say the chanting ritual, or for that matter, uh, different from the chanting of Om.
A good question. You know, sometimes I preach to people in India. I used to do that on Instagram. And the first thing I would say to them is, what's your goal? Where do you want to go next life? And they go, whoa, I didn't think about that. I didn't understand what that means. Because we live in the Earth planet. There are millions of planets in this universe. Then there are millions of universes. Then there's the spiritual, there's the Brahma Jyoti, the light. And beyond the light, there's the Vaikuntha planets. And there's other planetary systems. And and then you have devas who have their planets, like Durga Devi, you know, Mahadev, all their planets. So it depends on where you want to go. So Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the beauty of this Maha Mantra is it's asking Srimati Radharani and Lord Krishna, because Hare means Srimati Radharani, the feminine, because God is not just masculine, it's also feminine, plural, dual, sorry. And so you're asking, please engage me in your service, your seva. Yeah, that's what it means. And the goal of Hare Krishna is to take you beyond all the planetary systems back to Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna resides. That's the beauty of the Hare Krishna mantra. However, if your goal is not even to go to that place, the Hare Krishna mantra can take you to where you wish to go. That's the potency. But when you chant Vitala and you chant Ram and you chant Nrsingadev, they're all bona fide Lord's names that give you potency and purification. But in our tradition, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. It is the mantra for this Yuga Dharma. Basically, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Kali Yuga avatar, and he gave the mantra for this age. And he also said, chant the bona fide names of the Lord. So even if you're a Muslim and you chant Allah, it's bona fide. Do you understand? Because it's calling out to the Supreme Lord. They're monotheistic. They believe in one God. So do we. One God. But he has many different forms. I hope that helps. I mean, you can go into deeper, but I'm just, yeah. Anybody else?
Why Tulsi? Yes. So the question is why only Tulsi? Because there are many sacred.
Yeah, Rudraksha and other.
Even people, the people tree is there. That's sacred as well.
They're all sacred.
So why just Tulsi? I know that the story behind it, the worship of Lord Krishna doesn't happen without Tulsi, all of it, right? But why just Tulsi? There can be other flowers that can be grown, which are like quite loved by our Lord. Why specifically Tulsi? And only that Tulsi is recognized by the Hindu as
Yeah, a good question. Have I got time or 5 minutes? See, Tulsi's form in this world is a tree, a plant. In the spiritual world is Vrinda Devi, is a goddess. So she is very dear to Krishna. Krishna's favorite. You can't offer food to Krishna unless you give Tulsi on it. Tulsi goes on his feet. So it's about love. It's a reciprocation. There is a Leela, a pastime when Tulsi came and Shalagram, Vishnu became Shalagram. I'm not going to go into that. But the short answer is she's very dear to the Lord. So the rule is to please him, Tulsi must be present. However, that doesn't say you can't offer a rose, you can't offer any fruit, flowers, any other things. But the Lord has preferences. So if you go to South India and you see beautiful Balaji, Tulsi garlands are all over him. You know what I mean? It's his favorite preference. And it's so beautiful, Tulsi Devi, so purifying. I know some of you put Tulsi in tea and drink it. That's not how we do it. We worship. She's a sacred personality. And you know what? When you chant next to Tulsi, you get the benefit. You get more benefit of chanting God's names. That's why if you see people's houses in the courtyard, they have Tulsi Maharani, or they have in the what you call it, in the front house, in the windows, you know it's a Hindu person's house. You see Tulsi. Yani kani chapapani brahma hatyati kani cha. Just by circumambulating Tulsi Maharani, it can dissolve lifetime after lifetime of sinful activities. There's a Tulsi Maharani over there when you go out. Just go around her whenever you come, and you'll see it will start purifying you. That's a short answer of your question.